Hey everyone, so we've got a lot going on this week. This is the week of the 1 year since Layla Santanello went missing. Did want to get in a summer wells search this weekend, so we've got that planned, probably going to be published this week. Today this weekend, we did an interview with Jennifer Santanello, covered clips of that in our live, and that now this will be the full unedited, well, it's edited, but the full version that you didn't see on the live. Everything we talked about, we touched on some pretty tough subjects. Jennifer was fantastic, willing to talk about anything with us. We talked about it's the ethics of reporting on missing children, taking the family into account and the impact of reporting on the family. So it was a great interview. It went really well. I did want to preface this as we show you this interview. I did want to say to the rest of the family, this is one of the reasons we wanted to talk to Jennifer, and eventually we'll probably interview the other side if they want to. I did want to make a statement to make sure that George and Brittany understand how we approach things. We're respectful to all sides, and just because we're interviewing Jennifer Santanello doesn't mean we're aligned with Jennifer, and saying that doesn't mean we're aligned only with Brittany. We know there's disagreement in the family, and there's stuff that we don't want to get in the middle of. Our focus is Layla. We will work with Brittany and George. We will work with Jennifer and her boyfriend, forgot his name, I apologize, on any search locations that either of them want to cover. That's our focus, not the drama, not the disagreements. Try to stay out of the details of that, because I know in families when there's things like that going on, it's difficult for everyone. It's difficult on all sides, and we just want to be there to support everyone. So this was just one side of it. We wanted to talk to Jennifer. We've been talking to Brittany this whole time too, and supporting them this week on their searches. We're going to be, if they happen, I haven't heard back since Thursday, so I'm not sure what the plans are yet, but if they let us know, we'll be there. If they don't, we'll be searching anyway for locations that we have for Layla Santanello. It's going to be a busy week. Somebody told me Nug, Adventures with Nug, Jeremy is in town, so I reached out to him. I've been looking at that location in the river with my other camera, with my higher quality camera. Have been having just all kinds of difficulties. The water's higher now. Realized I don't get live preview, so I've been struggling. I wanted that video before I had anybody travel here, but Jeremy's here anyway, so I reached out to him, asked him, hey, you're here anyway. If you have time, do you want to collaborate on this location? I can show you the intel, I can show you the video, I can bring you there, and check it out, you know. And since he's here anyway, he's responded and said definitely interested. He's going to talk to Adam, and we'll see what we find. So that's going to happen this week, hopefully too. A lot going on this week, and it's going to be busy. But coming up here is our full interview with Jennifer Santanello. Again, thank you, Jennifer, for taking the time to sit down with us and talk about some pretty hard topics. So here's the interview. Hope you all enjoy. Data brokers sell your information to scammers, spammers, and anyone else who may want to target you. Your full name, email, home address, health records, your relatives, it's all out there. That's why I've been using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests for me. Cleaning up my information not only helps reduce the amount of spam I get, but it protects me from hackers who would use this information to help them access my social media accounts, bank accounts, and other sensitive information. I don't know if you saw this, but AT&T revealed that over 73 million customer records, both existing and former customers, were released on the dark web. They recommend those affected use strong passwords, monitor account activity, and consider credit freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. Well, Aura does this all for me, and best of all, I don't have to download several different apps just because a company couldn't keep my data secure. If my info is compromised in the AT&T data breach or by haters on social media trying to hack my identity, I wouldn't worry. because Aura is always on, always doing the hard work of keeping me safe. I value my privacy and I value all of yours. Protect yourself from attackers by going to aura.com/Ryan Finds Truth to start your 2-week free trial. Also link below in the description. That's aura.com/Ryan Finds Truth. Hey everyone. So this interview, by the way, just so you know, Jennifer, will be sort of like, we'll be doing a live talking about having integrity, reporting on and covering missing child cases, especially in dealing with the family. So that's what this is. And we're going to be talking about that. And then we're going to say, hey, we got input. And that's what this is for, by the way. The reason we want to talk to you is because, yeah, we can come up with theories about how we think it's ethical to deal with the family of a missing person. But how much better is it to talk to an actual family who's going through it, an actual mother who's going through this, and get your thoughts on our ideas and get your input. And I think that will be way better, right?
Yes, I agree.
Because you're going through it and you can help us kind of understand. We may think an approach is perfect, but you could be like, you know what? No, that could be really offensive.
Right. You know what I mean? Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Let's talk about it.
All right, let's do it. So one example that I wanted to talk about before I ask the first question is one case, and I saw this on Netflix. It was the most amazing documentary. They call it the Gone Girl case. It's about Denise Huskins and her boyfriend or husband. I think it was her husband. She got abducted. She got taken away, and she was missing for like, I don't know, about a week or two. I think it was 2 weeks. And then one day, her abductor just lets her go back home. Just drives her back home, drops her off. She walks in the front door. And the media was like, oh my gosh, that's just like the movie Gone Girl.
Right.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I read the book too.
Me too.
And all they did was draw correlations between, oh, this looks just like this. And next it became the Gone Girl case, which meant they accused her and her husband of concocting this hoax. Yep.
Yeah.
It became even more of a huge story because everybody like that.
It's so much easier to sensationalize, right? But I don't know if it was a year or several years, but it was a long time where they were being attacked by the police. Even the police actually. It took about a year. They tracked through other abductions, patterns from other abductions. There was one female cop in a county, several counties away, brand new female cop, first case as a detective. And she traced through the evidence. Eventually, one of the several abductions this guy did, they found a comb with hair in it, blonde hair. None of the other abductors or abductees had blonde hair. So they eventually traced it to Denise. And that proved that the abduction happened.
It was actually,
after they had been crucified forever.
That's crazy.
Right?
But that's just the things that can happen to people just based off of what people say. Like when people voice their speculations as facts, it can be so damaging. Now, I don't know how much of my stuff that you've watched, but for the longest time, actually, I didn't say his name out loud until he was arrested in March. I didn't say Michael Thompson's name out loud. I said my daughter's boyfriend. I referred to him that way. I did not say his name out loud. In the beginning, there was a lot of scrutiny about the group of friends that Layla had been spending time with prior to her disappearance in the days leading up. And I would talk about them, but I never said their names. These were young kids who were already struggling in their own crap that I didn't want to point fingers at. But then I, of course, trusted some creators to follow my lead and respect my wishes, who did not, and who turned around and shared these young people's names. And it turns out these young people had nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing.
Oh, were they trying to implicate those? They were trying to
Yes.
implicate them. Wow.
Yes. And it's like these are young people that are already literally struggling with their own sets of problems. I don't want to destroy their lives. I don't know for sure if they've had anything to do with my daughter's disappearance. Until I know for sure, I'm not pointing fingers at people. Like, because I know what it can do. I've seen it. Like, I'm a true crimer. I watched this stuff before this happened to me. Like, I know what can happen. I've seen it, and it just, you got to be so careful.
Yeah, and the more sensational the story, the more people cling on to it too. So it just
Absolutely.
blows up, and then
Absolutely.
everybody wants to believe it. So
They want the views.
yeah.
And that's the thing. I think you hit the nail on the head, Jennifer. It was what you said was you had something important to put out there. There were people related to the case that might know something, and you weren't trying to say they're guilty, but
Right.
but it's a fact that kind of might raise suspicion. So
Right.
let's talk about how to report that type of stuff, and we can use this recent example if you want to, because you talked about it on your TikTok, which I might share in the live if you don't mind, because that's great.
Okay.
You actually gave the whole scenario. You told how crappy the cops treated you, but
Yeah.
that situation was also, and I'll give a little background too for people watching this, is I had reported immediately on it when I saw the case. I saw her arrest record. I think I might have been one of the first ones. I'm not sure, but I was very quick to report on it. And then I saw an investigator's write-up, which he was very harsh toward you. We won't say his name, but
Right.
he gave extra details. He showed the indictments. And so I'm like, this must be true. And then I put a little thing at the end. Like I did report the facts as I knew them. I reported the arrest report, the indictments, and then I added a couple lines at the end. And I said, this is very suspicious. I wonder if it will help the cops come to some kind of conclusion about Layla Santanello's case. And then you reached out to me and you were like, hey, why did you say this? And then we talked, and it made me realize that, you know what, that last line,
Yeah.
maybe that was it. Like I voiced my suspicion and I implicated her immediately based on those facts.
Yes. And you also said something about maybe they're trying to put pressure on
Yes.
her.
Yes.
And that actually was the thing that like really got me, because I was like, wait, she's like a key witness in this other investigation. Like, and it just, that right there, that's what kind of hit me in the heart. I was like, no, wait, he's got it all wrong, all because one other person reported their speculations as fact, and because the person looked legitimate online, you took all of that information like, oh, okay, this is it. Only
Yep.
to find out later that things had been fudged and twisted in a way that was completely untrue.
Yeah, it framed it in a way that made it look.
Mhm.
And I think you might have hit on maybe the secret is for any creator who wants to report what they think are the facts, especially if it does point guilt at a family member or a relative, is what cleared it up in our case. I eventually talked directly to you.
Right.
I asked you the questions and you filled
Right.
me in on the details. And I think that's what a lot of creators maybe don't do.
Yeah, no, they don't reach out. They don't reach out. They don't want the family's input. They just take it like, this is juicy. These are some spicy details, and they take it and they run with it. You know, I'm very lucky that I have dealt with a lot of really amazing creators who would reach out to me before saying things with, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But there's lots that I haven't ever spoken to that just won't reach out. I also feel like it's important to always be sure that when you're speculating, you're being clear about your speculations. Like, this is my opinion. Please come to your own conclusions. Please do your own research, form your own opinion. Stuff like that is very, very helpful. Like, this is how I see this. And then maybe even asking the question, how do you guys see it? Do you have a different opinion? That even gets you more engagement. It gets people talking. But just to like flat out slap up there, this happened, this happened, this happened, because you heard it from somebody else and who framed it in a way that was not correct. Yeah.
It's
You really got to like do your own research, right? You saw this on one person's thing. even if you're a creator and you don't want to reach out to the family, or you don't have time to reach out to the family, Google search a few other posts and see what comes up.
Right.
You know, do
That's
a
a good
little bit
point.
more research than just the one person.
Mhm. That's a good point, because a lot of times other people, especially like the good creators you're talking about, have double checked those facts, and they may have a contradicting fact. And
Right.
that's the thing, like, and that's the approach we try to take is, if we have something, I mean, you can't contradict an arrest record, but you can contradict what it means.
Yes.
Analyzing the record and exactly what it means. So it's like, if one person says something, it's what you just said. It's, if you find someone else who said a contradicting statement or a contradicting analysis, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, our approach is what I did in our case. Don't even say anything, because it's not a fact. People can
Right.
disagree. It's not a fact. So
Right.
don't say anything at all. Don't implicate anyone really in this case. And let's talk about that, actually, if you don't mind. A lot of people have that question right now. In the case of Trisha, and you gave a ton of details. I think you put almost anything out anybody could wonder about, exactly what happened, how she got
That was the
arrested,
point.
what the charges were, the fact that they ripped her out of the wheelchair, threw her on the ground. There was the case of the, I think the money that was folded up in the registry, which that one is like, that's another thing. That would go down to someone's opinion. Did she intend to? Did she not intend to?
Right.
But
And
then,
yes, the officer does get to choose, but
so you know her, you're related to her, you've known her for
Mhm.
years. What's your opinion about how that happened?
Do I think she was trying to bribe that officer with $100?
That's what I'm asking.
Absolutely not. If she were gonna bribe somebody, it would be a heck of a lot more than $100 bill.
I was gonna say that.
Okay?
I totally
Like, I
agree.
know her pretty well. If she were gonna do it, she would do it with a heck of a lot more money.
Yep.
Okay? That's risking your butt for $100. That cop don't want your $100 in these days and ages. Come on.
They had that charge, which was bribery, and then they have, somebody said, I don't know if it was that the second charge. Yeah, he did, because he was debating someone online who was asking about, hey, these indictments are old charges from 2022. It doesn't make any sense. And then they said, but no drugs were found, and he said yes they were, because one of the charges in this case, in this arrest.
What did he say what did he say the charges were?
You know what? Let me get it correct. Let me call it up. That's
I
about,
saw a screenshot where he called that second charge a possession charge.
yeah, let's go with that for the sake
It
of
was
it.
not a possession charge. It's a casual exchange charge that they
Yes, I
added
saw
on
that.
after they arrested her. So when she left, she was told she was being arrested for attempted bribery. Okay? And overnight, this casual exchange charge appeared. That does not mean possession. That means they could have found a Tylenol on the floorboard and said, hey, we want to send this off. We don't know what this is. That's a casual exchange charge, right? Because casual exchange can be so many things. If I give somebody my antidepressants, they're non-narcotic, but if somebody's out and I run over there and bring them some because they're losing their mind, that's a casual exchange. Doesn't have to be a narcotic, doesn't have to be a hard substance. Casual exchange is like, it's a weird one, and you can use it for so many things. You really can. Like, they can tap that on for so many things. It could literally be your own. Let's say I have an antidepressant and an anti-anxiety medication, and I keep them all in the same bottle, right? Those little key ring holders where you can put your medicine, so if you forget to take it, you've got one with you. You can get a casual exchange charge with that.
That's
Like,
funny 'cause
it's illegal to do that.
I just learned that the other day, and I'm like, really? I didn't I didn't know that, because everybody does that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I know, right?
So-
It makes life easy, exactly. But you can technically catch a charge for that. Now, everyday people that don't have a long history of crimes in their jacket or whatever, they usually don't. But when there's extra stuff that you can tack on to someone, they will. And so that is the problem that I am having with that entire arrest, of course. Attempted bribery for she just registered that car, y'all. like a few weeks ago. She probably threw whatever change was all together and just didn't even think about it. Like,
and then you have a cop asking for your registration, you're rushing.
And you're nervous, you're handing it over, you know your driver has no license, so you're nervous, you don't know what's gonna happen, so you just hand over what you have. You don't look through it. Yep. I wouldn't. I know my registration's good, you know?
Right.
I don't know. That whole situation's crazy. And then the way that it was reported was just absolutely nuts by that one person, not by everybody. Yeah. By that one, it was just, and even like that indictment, the way that he worded it, like captioned it, he made it sound like she was the attempted murderer. She's named in an indictment for conspiracy after the fact. You don't even have to be home, and something can happen at your residence, and if you don't report it, that's conspiracy after the fact.
Yeah, well, it was so yeah, those were the two things I noticed. Is number one, I assumed when I first saw it, I'm like, oh no, she got indicted for it was accessory for murder, and I assumed automatically it was related to this case. I'm like,
nope.
Wow, either Holland or Layla's case. And then I started going through it, and I'm like, wait, 2022, that wouldn't quite work out. Timing's not right. They were not missing in 2022, first of all. And then the fact that it was accessory, which is what you just said. It's you don't even have to be present.
Yep.
Accessory.
Yep.
But yeah.
But the way this person spun this was literally just to damage her. And the crazier part is she is a key witness in a case that person is supposed to be investigating. Mm. Why slander witnesses? Why do that? I'm like, that blows my mind. I'm not understanding. And then this week I've seen so many posts about Holland's case where people are saying things like, so many people watched and saw Holland in that state and no one's coming forward. A couple of people did come forward, number one, and number two, you're calling these people who watch terrible, awful people. Like, you're already blasting them, right? But then you're turning around and you're begging them to come forward and tell you.
I was going to ask you.
You can't do both. You can't be blasting people for standing by while it happened and then asking for their help in solving it. Like,
I was going to ask you about that, Jennifer, because I know that I saw that people saying, why didn't she report anything? Why didn't she do anything if she witnessed this happening? But then I remember talking to you, and you explained a little more of the intricacies of what she does and how she's been helping. And did she, I can't remember if you said that, did you say she was one of the people that actually did report something?
Yeah.
Yes.
She was one of the first people to report. So she didn't do anything right then and there. First of all, she didn't see Holland with her own eyes. She was out in the car. Someone else saw Holland with their own eyes, and Holland was beaten up pretty badly.
But she saw Holland beaten after the fact, right?
She didn't. He did.
Okay.
She's a paraplegic. She was in the car. This guy pulls up, runs in the house, sees Holland, talks to the guy. Now, meanwhile, that was the other thing, that the person that we were discussing, the poor reporting, was claiming that she lived in the house with this man who caused that harm to Holland, and that's not true. He was her landlord. She lived on the property and rented a trailer from him, but she did not live in the house.
In a different
She had only ever been inside that house once to sign her lease. She had never been inside again. So, like, why are we why are we lying? Why are we lying about stuff?
Well, I'll tell you, I think I know why. I think I know why people lie. And I'm not and I'm not going to call it no. Lie specifically. Why they lie specifically about specific people in a case. And
details and stuff.
And we've seen it in other cases. We've seen it in the Summer Wells case too, where what happens is people, after doing enough, they think is enough research, then they're like, you know what? This woman right here, she's my number one suspect. And then that whole confirmation bias thing happens where they pull out details from different stories to support that person is the guilty person. And any little detail that, like, you've given us a whole bunch of things. If we were that person and we initially thought Trisha is guilty, Well, you just gave us a bunch of contradictory information that actually supports that actually should force us to second guess our assumptions and dig deeper. And I'm not saying like everything you just told us, about half of it is confirmed, can be confirmed very easily as
Yeah.
fact. There's documentation or whatever. Some of it, it's hard to prove. It's
Right.
you're telling us this. We don't know if it's true or not.
Right.
But that's okay because that's your opinion. We may have opinions from this investigator that contradicts it.
Right.
In my opinion, I think what that means is the things we can confirm that like what you're telling us, if we can confirm it, that's okay to report because it's then a fact. You've told us something, we confirmed it, it's a fact.
Yes.
If you tell us something and he tells us something else, I don't think you can't report it because you don't know the truth.
Right.
Or
you can quote the other person. You can say, this person feels this way and here's what he said, or you know what I mean?
Report, yeah.
Yeah, that makes
true.
sense.
Good point. It's not, you're not saying it's a fact. You're just saying, hey, this is their opinion.
This is this person's opinion, and just quote them. Just, and then and here's my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's ways to do it without like just grabbing somebody else's opinion and running with it.
Right.
I'll tell you, that's emotionally the hardest thing.
I know.
Here I am talking about emotionally hard for her, but anyway, the hard thing we go through is we'll talk to someone, and especially when it's family members, and there's all of these accusations out there. People are pushing you as a reporter, like, hey, they are absolutely guilty,
Right.
to prove them guilty. But we struggle with that because you do hear things like this. Like, we're talking to you and you're hearing things about Trisha, and it's like, hey, wait a second now. Maybe there's more to the story. But what if we do find something? Here's what input I want to get from you. And this is a hard one.
Oh gosh.
Let's say we do find, beyond a shadow of a doubt, and I'm not going to even use names. I'm going to say some hypothetical person in your family. We find proof that they are guilty. It's documented, several witnesses or whatever.
Or somehow involved.
And that, I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying hypothetically.
Right. Hypothetically, if we find that out later, well, then I would be forced to publicly apologize.
Yeah.
And maybe it should come from the family first.
Yes, I agree.
Talk to the family and let the family release it, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And it really should, but that's never going to happen. That's never going to be a thing. No one's ever going to give the family time to get their bearings in a shocking situation like that. No one's ever going to give the family time to get their bearings, okay? Right. You want to be the first person to report on this. You want to be you know what I'm saying? That's just not going to happen. I would, as the crazy thing is, and this is something that it didn't occur to me as a true crime participator, I guess, prior to being a family of a victim. Mm-hmm. There's not just one victim in these cases, man. There's the family is also victimized enormously in so many ways, even without the scrutiny of the media. Mm-hmm. Like, I am now a victim. My granddaughter is now a victim. My sons are now a victim, right? And then, I don't know. And then you think about the added scrutiny of the media, what that does to these kids. Right. What that is going to do to Nova Grace 15 years from now when she looks all this up. What is that doing to my 14-year-old son who's just coming of age? Right. And when people are reporting on these things, they're not thinking about the siblings or the children, or they don't care about any of that.
No, they don't care.
It's getting the scoop.
Yeah.
And actually, what you just said is a perfect segue into the next topic I wanted to talk about, and that's the emotional and maybe even financial, legal impact of the reporting. Because one of the things we heard and struck us the most at CrimeCon, I don't know if you saw her, she was in a talk that was on ethics, so it wasn't like, hey, this is Candace Cooley talking about her son Dylan Rounds. But we went to this ethics talk, and there she was sitting in the middle of the table between these investigators. And she told her story, and it was like people immediately went after the mother of a missing boy, dug up the fact that she had gotten divorced. all the dirt they could dig up on her.
Oh,
They
wow.
started accusing her of, for some reason, these bad things in your past, which everyone has some.
Everyone has something.
But all of a
I am not
sudden,
an angel. I've got bad things in my past. My boyfriend, I'm still shocked that that they didn't figure out way earlier that my boyfriend is a convicted felon and like squeezed all manner of things out of that. But yeah, they do that.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, why? This person is struggling. Maybe you get a feeling that this person might be involved. Good for you. Say that I have a feeling that this person might be involved. Don't go digging around in somebody else's closet for their skeletons that have nothing to do with the case at hand.
Right.
it's
And then grab the skeleton out and shake it around like, here, look at this, but it has nothing to do with what's currently happening. But here, it's crazy.
And she said the same thing you did. It was like they were doing that and throwing accusation after accusation, bringing out things about Dylan, about the child.
Oh, Jesus.
Reporting things on the child that, like you just said, what about 15 years from now? Nova Grace is an adult, is getting older, and she starts reading all the things that people have said about Layla.
All the slanderous things that yeah.
And that's the question I actually have for you, is setting aside that the drama and the specifics about the drama, you're going through hell. You've been going through hell for a year.
Yeah.
And you're on TikTok, you're explaining the emotions that you're going through in this case. I'm curious if you don't mind talking about it, already dealing with that. When you've had cases where creators have released something that attacks you, attacks your family, that's added stress, that's added emotional impact. How do you deal with that? How do you cope with that in those times? How in the world do you cope with that extra stress?
I go down to the gym and I hit the bag. I do. I do. I do. I lift heavy things. I run. I mean, I have to get it out. Like, I get so angry and I can't. For me, it has been 100% key to not acknowledge the hate.
Right.
So smart.
It's hard though.
It is so hard. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to explode and also like put all the receipts out. Like, I have all the receipts that go against everything that has been said.
Which I assume could hurt the investigation.
No, I don't think it would hurt the investigation. It would just hurt the people that
Oh, you want to go after
the only way that it would hurt the investigation is this, and this is why I haven't done that. The way that it ends up hurting the investigation is that people stop paying attention to the investigation and they go after these other people, and no one gives a crap about Layla and her case anymore. And that is what I don't want. That is what I fully understood when I considered doing it very early on, right? Because I'm literally being lied on, and it's not just by creators, it's by other people too, and it's by people connected to my life, right? And I can prove them all, like, literally wrong. Like, I can prove that everything they've said is the opposite happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have it all on paper. But to do that creates this mudslinging war, right? And now it looks like all I'm doing is trying to throw mud back, even if my mud sticks or whatever, and theirs doesn't matter. Yeah. It creates this very obvious war that creators don't want to deal with. And now you can't share your story because you're fighting with other people too much. Yeah. Nobody wants to be a part of that. Nobody wants to deal with the family drama. I hate to say it, but like the Sebastian Rogers case.
Oh, yeah.
That's been a storm. That's been a storm of the parents making, because neither could rise above. Neither could put the blinders on and focus on the kid. I feel like Seth did early on, but he just got to a point where he couldn't hold it anymore, and things just got really, really, really ugly. Yeah. I've been doing this for a year now, and it doesn't get easier. It gets harder. But I know that what is in my daughter's best interest is not for me to be bad-mouthing all these people. It's not for me to be sharing the truth about all these people. What I need to be sharing the truth about is her case, the investigation, how I'm dealing with it, what we're doing about it. Those are the truths I need to be sharing right now. That's all that matters. That should be the focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is honestly, Jennifer, that is like, I felt what you just said so strongly because we have been through similar attacks and it's emotional. When somebody punches you, you want so badly to punch back.
Oh yeah.
Right? You want so bad, that anger comes up and you just feel it so strongly. You want to fight back. And what hit me about what you were just saying is that you are able to take that emotional attack that people make you feel these strong emotions of anger and you want to just fight back, and the emotion of what you are going through, how much you love your daughter, how much you care about your daughter, how much you want her found, overpowers that so much that you're willing to take the hits and actually ignore it. That's amazing. That's
it. I've always been that way. I have always, do what you will to me. I don't care. Don't hurt her.
Yeah.
Don't hurt them. I like that. I won't tolerate, and I won't be a part of it.
Good for you.
I won't align myself with it, and I can't, because I know how damaging it can be to her.
Right. And it takes away from the time you spend. It takes away from the time you spend dealing with her. I mean, dealing with the whole case itself.
Oh yeah, it absolutely does. It distracts me from it.
Right.
Like, if it distracts me from dealing with the case and search efforts as much as it does, it's going to distract the hell out of the public.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So I'm not, that's why, like, I'm hesitant to even share some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to acknowledge it, you guys. Like, I don't want to acknowledge it. You acknowledge it, people immediately turn around and try and figure out who you're talking about.
Yes,
Of course.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that gives them exactly what they're looking for. They're looking for a platform to continue spreading lies on. They want more eyeballs on them, and they don't care if and they don't care if the attention they're getting is negative, as long as it's attention.
Well, they just care about clickbait. That's what
absolutely.
It is.
Yeah, and you know what? We're not talking about specific people, right? We're talking about creators who want the scoop. They want to just do this attack, and why they do it. And what you said is true. They do it because they want you to react, and they want that fight. They want that drama. And all we're talking about here right now it's not really specifics. I mean, we give some examples, but we're talking about for the creators who want to do right by the family and by the missing victim, the victim and their family.
Yes.
There's a right way to do it without getting into the drama, I think. And I feel like we've hit on it. I feel like it's like, ignore the drama, ignore that, don't respond, focus on the missing child, focus on the case.
Absolutely. And that's how I report on other missing cases.
Yeah.
I only state the facts, and then I might give my opinion on some things, you know what I mean? But like, even if like Sebastian Rogers, I've reported on that case a handful of times. I don't touch on, Seth Rogers said this and said that. Yeah. Like, I don't, we ain't playing those games. I'm not playing those games. Absolutely not. That's not necessary. Right. Like, I don't need clicks and views that bad.
Right.
That I would perpetuate that kind of a hell for another family.
Of course, yeah.
It takes real discord. Like, yes, the family has real discord. There are two sets of parents and there are disagreements, and it's what we talked about earlier. It's like, yes, maybe that exists. What the hell does it have to do with the case? Does it really have anything to do with the case? But they don't care because it creates drama. It brings in clicks and views, and boy, people love to see conflict.
Yeah. Absolutely. They really, really do.
Yeah.
But if you'll notice, though, and this is what I want to point out to any creators watching this, and this is something that I learned when Layla went missing, because I wasn't fully aware. Like, you look at some of these bigger creators like Kendall Ray, Annie Elise, they don't do that crap.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
And they got where they're at because they don't do that crap.
They do their research. That's what they do.
They do their research. They're very careful about what they say about who. Like, they know what they're doing. And they're advocating for families and advocating for victims. And, like, it's all about that, right? Like, we did Kendall Ray. They were amazing. They were so great. Even in dealing with the fact that there was some disgruntlement with inside the family. They managed that absolutely beautifully. I was so impressed. And it's then there's these like tiers that goes down in tiers, doesn't it? Like you have your big top true crime reporters, and then it goes down. Bailey Sarian, she never gets involved in the drama. I mean, she's just incredible. But then you drop down, and the lower you go, it's more. You add a little more drama, add a little more drama, add a little more drama, and then there's like this lower tier, and there's like 2,000 different little smaller channels, and they're all fighting with each other, and they're all bullying each other, and they're bullying families, and they're bullying victims, and they're bullying witnesses, and it's like, this is disgusting.
Right. Well, that's all they do because they don't want to do the work involved to.
It's crazy.
Do it right.
It takes work. Yeah. It takes work to talk to families, to check, to do your research, to confirm documents, to do FOIA requests. That takes work. You know what?
Right.
It's so much easier to sit behind a desk, find some other creator that you disagree with, or a family.
Oh yeah, and team up with your friends and bully them and bully families and bully. It's crazy. It's absolutely
It's just so much easier, and that's the problem.
Can I tell you, in the very beginning, when I first started like publicly speaking on my daughter, there was someone with a smaller channel and a smaller following who reached out to me. I'm not gonna say who, okay? I'm sure lots of people are gonna figure it out anyway, but I'm not gonna say who. This person, the first thing they did was order me flyers and said, hey, sent me an email, hey, go pick up 100 flyers from this place right here. Anything you need, we got you. You need somebody to talk to, that's fine. Anything you tell me stays between us unless you want me to share your daughter. Okay. This was the first person with any kind of platform to reach out to me and ask me, if I needed help. Can I help you? This was the first one. And they did everything right. They did everything right. It was awesome. Meanwhile, there were all these other smaller channels reporting on Layla, but being giant crazy buttholes about it. So then I'm like, yes, please share. I need sharing. Like, that's what we need right now, right? As soon as this creator started sharing my daughter, do you know my inbox is filled full of people warning me about them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Warning me. I'm in the middle of trying to find my kid. You think I'm going to turn down help right now? I don't need your warnings. I'll figure it out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, thousands of messages.
Wow.
What? Like, I'm missing tips and leads on my kid's case because I have thousands of messages, people slandering the creator that I am talking to and is sharing my daughter. The rest of them are all sharing her too, but none of them have reached out to me personally. None of them have offered to help me in any way.
There's sabotage that happens. There's sabotage.
It's crazy.
And I got to tell you, I did not want to put a single word out there that we were going to be talking to you, because you know what? We know that there would be people trying to sabotage us talking. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter if it's you, it doesn't matter if it's some other family, or if I have a source in law enforcement. If anybody knows that a creator is doing something, for some reason there's this army of haters for every single person, and they want to sabotage. So I do feel bad for that creator. The other side of it is, when that creator decides to go live with Layla's case, and there's going to be that hate that comes at her, the next part of the equation is how she responds to the hate.
Yeah.
Does she follow your approach, where she just takes the high road, focuses on Layla, or does she go on the attack? And that's what I think makes the difference between those high level
rising above and rising up. And and unfortunately, and I'm not even afraid to say it, the creator that I'm talking about does feed into drama. They do, and I love them, and I feel like they are such a beautiful human being underneath that facade that they put out publicly, that if they could just curb the drama slightly, they would rise so quickly.
Yeah. But for you, that's not really a concern for you, because your concern is what's the best for Layla. What's the best for
my concern is what's the best for Layla. So if that drama starts going amongst those groups of people, I just exit. they can all fight amongst themselves. I
Yeah,
go away and I don't look anymore.
but also, if you're getting free flyers, if you're getting free support from her,
Right.
why not? Why not take
Right.
advantage of it, right?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I did want to talk. One last thing I wanted to talk to you about was the future. But before I get to the future, because that's kind of probably going to be a whole different discussion. Did you have any other thoughts or questions?
I have a question, but it's probably not not really about this whole subject. But
That's okay.
you know, so many people don't understand what you're going through, especially, you know, not me, so many. And how can we be empathetic when we don't know what that's like, you know?
Right.
I was wondering if you could kind of just tell us the emotions you've gone through from this, and unless it's too like personal or whatever, just, you know, wondering from your perspective how you felt, like all your feelings that, well, maybe not all, I'm sure you have a lot, but you know, just kind of the stages you went through and are going through. That's maybe too much.
That's a tough one, Jen.
I want to have empathy when I'm talking to the families. You know what I mean? But
Absolutely. I get
can't
that. I
possibly
totally
know what
get
you're
that.
going through.
So, okay. And we can kind of tie that into this subject, right? You're talking about you want to have empathy when you're dealing and discussing with families and you're reaching out to them and offering your help and that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
I suggest that if you're choosing to be a reputable source for these families, if you're wanting to stay away from the drama and you're just wanting to report as much as you can and help do searches and push a name and push a face and do those things, come with references.
Mhm.
Don't make them look you up.
Yeah.
Don't make them have to do the work. Hey, these are a couple of families. Get with a couple of families you've helped and say, can I use you as a reference when I reach out to other families in the same situation?
Okay.
But in your email, say this, I helped this person before. You can call them. Here's their number.
Right.
Call this mom and have a conversation with them. At least 2 different ones. One of the hardest things for me is trying to figure out who I can trust.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, yeah. Of
I need everyone's help, but I can't trust everyone.
course. Yeah.
And I learned that the hard way.
Mm.
I learned very quickly that people will reach a hand out to you only to help themselves.
Mhm.
And you have to be very, very careful with who you trust and who you give your information to. And I fell for a couple of people. I really, really did.
Probably at the
As
beginning.
a mother, your intuition's jacked up.
Mm-hmm.
Because all you can focus is on your child, right? Like your intuition is all messed up.
That makes sense.
My central nervous system is a disaster. My body's full of cortisol. Like I can't sense who's being real and who isn't. Not always. Sometimes I can. Not always. Not in the state that I'm in.
Right, because your emotions are just so tied. Your emotions are just so tied up in, you know, what happened. That, yeah, I get that. Yeah. Okay.
And you're constantly worried, and you're like, my muscles are all just like this all the time because I'm always so worried about what's going to happen next, what's going to blow up in my face next, you know, like.
And that's why you have to go to the gym.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly, yes. Like it gets really, really bad. And as far as like the emotions, first you're in like shock and denial.
Mhm.
In my situation now, if it was a 4-year-old who went missing, the shock and denial phase is probably very short, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's like minutes. Whereas it's a missing young adult.
Right.
Okay, who wasn't living at home.
Okay.
Who would go a few days at a time without reaching out. You know what I
Right.
mean? So for me, it was like, oh, you know, it's okay. Like I was convincing myself that everything was going to be fine and she was going to turn up.
Yeah.
And I was in that headspace for weeks.
Yeah.
Like 3 weeks.
Wow. Yeah, we have daughters in their 20s, and I can see how you felt like that because you're like, oh, she's probably with her boyfriend, or oh, she's probably, you know, here or there for a few days. And
yeah, I thought she was hiding from her boyfriend. I thought she was trying to keep away from Michael, and so she latched onto some other friends and was just in hiding.
Yep. So I can see how you felt that way. And, you know, that's interesting, explaining how, you know, the difference between dealing with a 4-year-old compared to a young adult.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a big
that makes
difference
sense to me. Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And gosh, so I do want to talk about your ideas for, I know it's hard to think past Layla. Like, whatever happens, if she, pray to God, she walks in the door someday, 5 years from now, hey, I was in hiding, or I was staying, I just wanted to get away. Who knows? Or, don't even want to talk about the worst case scenario, but imagine yourself in the future. This case is over. What do you see your future? What do you see yourself doing now that you've had this experience, this horrible, crazy experience, and you've gone through all of this? I'm sure it's changed you as a person, and I'm so curious what it's made you into for the future, what your plans are.
I think about that a lot, actually. I think about, if there was a conclusion tomorrow, where would I go from there?
Right.
I don't think I'll ever stop advocating for missing people. I don't think I'll ever stop that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ideas that I have. There's a lot of things that I want to do to sort of help and comfort other families that have gone through this. Now, I don't have the capacity to do that stuff now. I can share other cases and things like that right now. But there's like, today I was thinking about, I want to start a foundation for people in this position. I can't stop people from going missing, unfortunately, but I can sort of do my best to ease the misery, nightmarish hell that it is.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about the things that that you can do for people. I want to have a foundation that helps put up billboards, right? And in some cases, helps with reward money, and will be able to physically or financially help carry a little bit of the load, especially in the beginning.
Right.
But I also want to be able to do things to comfort these families, right? Like, nobody ever thinks about certain aspects of this, like donate a weekly maid for 2 weeks, somebody to clean the house, donate, that we have the meal train, and that's wonderful, but there's so many other things that you don't have as a parent, or if I was a wife and the husband was missing or something like that. Like, there's so many things that you don't think about, that you don't really have the capacity to do, because you're running all over the place searching and doing interviews and doing this, and by the end of the day you're so exhausted, and the house is starting to pile up with craziness, and you know what I'm saying? Like, there are so many things that can be done for people in this position. I would like to be able to, I don't know, have a foundation where I can donate services to people that are struggling and suffering, and you know what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes sense. It's not a fully formed idea.
That's where.
But even like respite, like it's been a year, and I was thinking today, like, what I wouldn't do for 2 days in a friggin' hotel room with no phones and computers. Like, the regeneration that I would be able to get for that. But like, we can't he can't take time off for anything outside search efforts. We can't afford it. We can't afford to go and spend however much on a room. Like, we can't afford to do those things. The only times we go places is when we are doing something for Layla, or sometimes we have to go out of town to pick up Nova Grace, because she kind of goes back and forth between my sister and I. But like, if it's not for Layla or Nova, we just can't do it. And I wonder about the other families in similar situations, or even worse situations, that like they need a break, or they could use like laundry for a week, or like just those little things would be so amazing some days.
Well, that's where your experience is so valuable, because what you've just said, I'm sorry to say I would never have thought about that, but it makes so much sense. Yeah, you hear about people bringing casseroles, but not about,
and that's great. That's a wonderful thing, man, because at the end of the day, trying to cook dinner after all that crap too, that's great.
Yeah.
But everyone just brings casseroles.
Right.
And so now you have all this food, but your laundry ain't been done in a week. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, those are things that people might not think about, just everyday things that I can see you'd have no time or energy for, and that makes a lot of sense. So I'm glad you brought that
Yeah.
to light.
I
because-
was actually thinking about that in the car today. Like someday I'm gonna be able to do that. Someday.
Yeah.
I also, I don't know. Along with the whole foundation idea, I want to be an advocate. And I know that there's so many advocacy groups, but there's never, when something like this happens, there ought to be somebody from one of them foundation that shows up at your door
I
and
was going
says,
to ask
"Hi, I'm here to
Jennifer.
help you."
I was going to ask you about that because that's one of the things we heard at CrimeCon from an advocacy group. That was hard to say. Is there aren't enough well-trained advocates, and I was
There's not. There's
wondering.
not. And then, I'm an advocacy group, but like, you can call me and I can point you in the direction of different resources. And that's no, like, I don't have the capacity to make phone calls in the midst of my nightmare. I don't have the capacity to, like, I want to be somebody that shows up and says, "Hey, I'm offering you my services. Can I hang out with you for a little while and help you get through these first few steps?"
Right, that makes sense.
That would
It's a
be amazing.
foundation.
Yeah,
It's a
that'd be
nonprofit.
huge.
You don't have to pay
Yeah.
me. I'm just here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're out right now, especially with this anniversary coming. Like, I'm so overwhelmed and overloaded.
Mhm.
I've got a vigil to plan and situate and all of this stuff. I had other things scheduled and planned for this week, and I'm just, my brain is not working. I don't have anybody to like pick up the slack for me. It's Opie's busy week. He's at work. I got nothing over here. So I literally am just like feeling like I'm dropping all of the balls and I don't have the energy or the capacity to pick them up.
Right.
Jennifer, I assumed that when this first happened, that you had that person. I thought you had someone, maybe through the police department, an advocacy. I can't say that word. Advocacy group, who actually would had set down, because what you described to me just a while ago, that feeling like your muscles are all tight and you're always feeling like something's going to happen. You know what that's the same description that soldiers give when they're in the middle of a war. That constant state of alert, and that's what you are in the middle of. And so, did you get that level of resources, or are you saying nobody sat down with you and helped walk you
No,
through this?
no, I had to wing this. I had to wing this all on like literally all on my own, while not agreeing with a certain group of family members and having to figure it out on my own with them in full disagreement of everything I was trying to do. I had to figure out what was best for my daughter and how to put her first, literally all by myself. Like,
Oh.
my siblings had like a text chain with me, but they're out of state. Like, they can't do anything for me.
Yeah.
They can give me their opinions. That's not always helpful.
Yeah, I mean that emotional support, you kind of have to do that in person, right?
Opie can only do so much.
Yeah.
Like, he does. He shows up and he is friggin' amazing, but he's not always here. Somebody's got to pay the bills. I worked the first 2 months into this and it just got so overwhelming. I was crying, like literally in tears, hysterically crying throughout my shifts. It just got to the point where like I couldn't focus on anything else.
Yeah.
And that I just had to stop. Like, there just wasn't any more going. Like, I just couldn't do it. And that was not fun.
I bet.
And now he's the only one doing the working. And then when he's not working, he's helping me with the baby. And he's helping me with literally every search effort that I make. And
You're tired.
I'm not like an atypical person, you guys. I'm a shit show. I always have been. You can ask anybody who knows me. Like, I'm a present and loving mother, but I'm not like that one that has all the snacks organized, and that's not me. I have ADD brain.
Yeah.
I'm a free-flowing parent. Like, none of this has come easy, and it would have been really amazing to have somebody to just kind of pick up the slack. Now, later on, I do have out-of-state friends all over the damn place that do help out with like the Facebook group and other things. Crime Scene Collective, that guy, he just volunteered himself, and he does help me like with my emails and scheduling podcasts and stuff like that. He tries to help out with, but he also has a full-time job.
Yeah.
And he does that on the side, and he
Oh, that's
gets
awesome.
nothing for it. He's not a foundation. He's just himself. Like,
Wow.
you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
So I have outside help, but I have no inner ring help.
Mm-hmm.
No right next to me supporting me help other than Opie, who is only here half of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Not even.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, that's kind of everything we wanted to cover. The last thing I'll say is, obviously, you know us now by now. Our thing is trying to focus on. We don't typically get into this kind of thing, like talking about drama, but we're trying to talk about ethical reporting because when we do search,
in a productive way.
yeah, we have to report on things when we're researching for our searching. But you know that we're focused on searching. We have plans to go out there and help you with locations for looking for Layla. I've told you this, and I'm saying this so our listeners know that we are like the Sebastian Rogers case. There, you mentioned it earlier, there is conflict. There's interfamily conflict, and that is emotional for us because we feel your position. Like, we feel for you so much. And we also feel, obviously, for the rest of Layla's family, and we're trying to be supportive to both of you and be as transparent as we can. So I'm just going to say we're trying to help you search in anything you need from us at all, anytime we're available. Yeah.
I am home most days, so if you need anything,
Thank you.
I'm here.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Did you have any last thoughts or any last words you want to make sure people know or hear about this case or about you or what you're going through? Anything at all?
Not really. You have do you have a lot of local supporters? Should we talk about the vigil?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, please do. Because believe it or not, we're weird because, well, we're weird. Our channel's unique because obviously we focus on local missing cases. So we've developed this very lopsided, unlike other true crime channels, we're very Tri-City centric. Like, we have so many
Oh,
people in
cool.
Tri-Cities. So absolutely let them know whatever you want.
Please.
Okay. Yeah, so Thursday the 27th marks exactly 1 year since Layla vanished. We're doing a candlelight vigil. The vigil will gather at 8. The vigil will begin between 8:20, 8:30. We'll light the candles, we'll say our prayers, we'll do all that fun stuff. Fun stuff.
Yeah.
But I would really love to see a huge turnout for her. I really, really would. It would really regenerate the family, honestly. Like, we're dragging butt right now. Like, this has been so exhausting. I think that it would really fill us up to have a big turnout.
That'd be great.
I would say to even people in nearby North Virginia, South Virginia, we got Georgia. You know what? I would say to everyone, if you can't do anything else for a missing person's family, this is one thing we can all do. Be there.
Yeah.
Be there to support Jennifer, her boyfriend. I'm sorry, boyfriend, husband, boyfriend.
Yeah, boyfriend.
Yeah,
We're not married.
boyfriend. Be there to support them, and just emotionally. I mean, that would be a huge lift, wouldn't it? Just to see a bunch of people standing there with candles, saying prayers with you, and moving on into this next phase and hoping for the best.
Can you give the information one more time?
It's going to be at 8 o'clock at Borden Park in Kingsport, right next to the basketball courts. It's short. It's really relatively short. We'll start to gather around 8. We'll start the vigil between 8:20 and 8:30, and everyone's usually out of there by 9. It's not very long, so it's not like I'm forcing you to come to a barbecue that's very sad or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the date was July 27th?
June 27th.
June 27th.
It's
I'm
next
sorry.
week.
Okay, next week, June 27th.
Whew, that was a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you so much for going through this, for talking with us. I mean, this is important in so many ways. I think it's going to help not just creators, but people who watch creators,
right,
and understand what they're hearing and how it affects someone like the mother of a missing child. That to me, I don't know if
Absolutely.
people realize. You know, I don't know if
Yeah.
they realize that. So thank you so much for doing this
Thank
with us.
you. I know I met
You got
at
it.
I know I met you at Summer's Day, but I didn't get to talk to you much, so it was really nice to talk to you.
You too. It was really nice getting to know you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Hope you have a good night, the rest of your evening, and we'll
You
talk to you later.
too.
Thank you. Bye.
All right,
Bye,
bye-bye.
guys.